What's up, everyone? Aaron Nagler here, PackersNews.com, live on Facebook late in the day on Monday. As you can tell, no crooked lampshade today. I am here in Green Bay and will be for the duration of the week leading up to and through the NFL draft. We got to talk to Brian Gutekunst, Packers general manager, earlier this morning, and while no shop secrets were revealed, he was forthcoming on a few topics. Chiefly his relationship with Aaron Rodgers, and having read what has been reported, but saying there have been no issues in the building. He said he's always been a good listener, which I think will serve him well in this gig. Wow, look at everyone jumping on. What's up, everyone? North Hudson, what's going on? Ron, hello. Eric Decker's a free agent. He is indeed. One I don't believe the Packers will show interest in, but you never know. George, hello. Hi, how are you? Crowley, Texas, checking in. What's up, man? So yeah, like I said, Gutekunst, as general and vague as his predecessor, although he did drop a nugget here and there, but for the most part, it sure was less than an hour spent listening to vague draft talk, which is always fun. But the Packers, clearly they're in a good position there, sitting at 14. There's a good chance some defensive talent is going to fall to them. There's also a decent chance, I think, the closer we get to the draft, the more I feel there's a decent chance they, having the ammunition they have, the draft capital they have, there's every possibility that they could trade up if the guy or guys they really like land in the 9, 10, 11 range. Just a feeling, not reporting anything here, but the feeling I get is if there's a target there that they like, they're going to jump on it. How important is this draft for the new GM? Thomas, you don't want to overstate it, but it is important. I thought Pete Doherty had a good column on it a few weeks ago regarding, putting his stamp on things, and something that I wrote a couple weeks ago in regards to Ted Thompson himself last summer, saying that the roster had gotten a bit stale. I don't think anyone would deny, in or outside of the building, the drafts recently have not been as productive as the drafts early on in Ted Thompson's tenure. I think Gutekunst is anxious to put his stamp on things and to have a really productive 3 days that helps start to provide a base of talent that this team can make another championship run with. Now, that said, like I began the answer with, you don't want to put too much pressure on one draft. A big part of this season will be about getting production out of their last 2 drafts. But I don't think there's any question that it's important for Gutekunst to find guys that he can build around and start to gather and define the base of his roster. Hello from Auburn. What's up, man? Any chance Raji to right tackle? There you go. Now you're talking. Now we're talking with BJ Raji in the fold. Heard Tell will be at the draft room. Ron, yeah, I think that was what Gutekunst said. He said he'll be there. He'll be there to consult if needs be. Obviously, he won't be in charge. That'll be Gutekunst, but he'll be there as a sounding board. If Brian has any questions for him, I'm sure he'll shoot. He'll bounce them off him just like you would any other scout. Need an impact player. Can't afford to draft a project. Well, I don't think anybody really thinks about going into a draft saying we have to draft a project. Sometimes things fall, value-wise on the board that they will take a guy who maybe they think has some upside. But I agree they have to get somebody who, while, every team wants to find a game changer in the draft, but they definitely have to find contributors, people that can step in and contribute their rookie years. I think they need 1 or 2 of those. There's no doubt about that. If the Packers draft a quarterback at 14, is a Rodgers extension dead in the water? That's a big hypothetical. I wouldn't say it's dead in the water, but it would be interesting. I mean, Rodgers still has 2 years left on his deal, and the Packers can use the franchise tag 2 more years after that, realistically. So that's 4 years of control. I'm sure Rodgers would be a little, not miffed, but a little confused, but it would make things fun, that's for sure. Is wide receiver really a priority? Peter, yeah, I think so. I think, that's no knock on Geronimo Allison, but there's definitely a need for a perimeter wide receiver opposite Davante Adams. Obviously, Jimmy Graham in free agency, he's more of a wide receiver now than he is a tight end, if he ever was a tight end. And I think he will be productive in this offense. But one of the reasons they've been successful on the offensive side of the ball for so long, in addition to having Aaron Rodgers, which is the obvious one, it's because Ted Thompson did a really good job of providing Rodgers with talent to throw the ball to, whether it's been Greg Jennings, Jordy Nelson, Randall Cobb. These are all guys that they've gotten. James Jones on day 2 of the draft. And I think, Gutekunst will follow suit. Adams obviously is locked in long-term now. But after that, you've got Randall Cobb entering the last year of his deal. And then you've got Geronimo Allison, D'Angelo Yancey, Michael Clark, a lot of unproven raw guys, other than Allison, who's shown what he can do. But, Allison's not a dynamic player. He's not someone that you're ever going to have to, as a defensive coordinator, need to worry about. Yes, he's going to make some plays with Aaron Rodgers throwing him the football, but they could very, very much stand to A, upgrade there, and B, set themselves up for the future going forward. Have the Packers filled enough holes in free agency? It's a good question. Not as many as I thought they might. I thought they would have addressed right tackle a little bit stronger, in any way, shape, or form. But for the most part, they went out and got some corners, some veteran guys, obviously, in Williams and House. They got Jimmy Graham, who is going to fill that void at tight end. And I think Mo Wilkerson's, I think he's not a surprise signing because I think most people expect him to play pretty well in Pettine's system. But I think his value is going to become really apparent as the year goes on. That said, you could, as Gutekunst himself said in Indianapolis, he'd always like to do more. He'd always like to fill a few more holes, to leave yourself kind of wide open during the draft. But I think he's done a decent job. If Lamar Jackson is there in the second round, do the Packers draft him? Whew. I doubt it. But again, that would be fun. I think Lamar Jackson will go in the first round. But that's just me. Packers can't pass on this opportunity to trade up for an elite player. I always find it funny during these the chats, we always get people who say, they got to trade down. There's no one there at 14 worth picking, and then we got to trade up to get a elite player. I mean, you could get an elite player at 14. Darrelle Revis was taken at 14. He's one of the best to ever do it. That's not to say I think there's a Darrelle Revis in this class, but when it comes to the draft, you never really know. And I think Gutekunst himself has said, you always want more bites at the apple. But you can't dismiss it out of hand. Like I said a little earlier, it does have the feel of a draft where they've got the ammunition and they've got that glaring need on the defensive side of the ball, either for an edge rusher and or someone who can play the slot, play the perimeter corner. If there's a guy they love, whether it's Ward or Fitzpatrick, James, maybe Chubb, though I don't think they have the ammo to go get him. But, if Gutekunst is sold on whoever that is, yeah, I think we'll see a trade up. Dustin, was this the job you always wanted? No, it was not. It doesn't look like it ever snowed there. Well, that's because I've perfectly placed the camera because there are huge mounds of snow everywhere you look in Green Bay right now. It's kind of weird. It's like 60 and sunny and huge mounds of snow. It's very odd. I'd say only trade up for Bradley Chubb if he falls. He could definitely be a guy. If he falls to 8 or 9, I gotta think they'll be on the phone, no doubt. Maybe we could surprise everybody by trading sideways. Now you're talking, Joe. Now you're thinking outside the box. Could a team sign Dez and keep confidential until draft day? Whew, in 2018? The age of social media? I think Dez Bryant would have it on his Instagram before anybody else. Yeah, I'd be very surprised. Now, will he sign right before draft day? I think that's a good possibility. Would you take Edmonds over Davenport? Yes. 1,000 times yes. I think Edmonds is going to be a true playmaker. He's much more versatile than Davenport. While Davenport's upside is really enticing, I think Edmonds is going to be an instant impact player. And plus, heck, he's only 19 years old. That kid is going to be in the league a long time. Yeah, the backwards writing is because of the iPhone and the mirror thing, and I don't want to deal with it. So deal with it. I feel like Ted is loving this situation. Chad, yes. I mean, obviously, none of us have been able to speak to him. He doesn't want anything to do with the media, and clearly he's not going to talk to anybody. But yeah, you always got the sense that this is what he wanted to be doing. Locked away, watching tape, participating in draft meetings, being there for the draft, and then starting all over again a couple days after the draft ends. Yeah, I think Ted's in heaven. Landry or Davenport? Roger, give me Landry. I know, like I've said often, Davenport's upside is definitely, the ceiling is definitely high. It's exciting to think about what he might do down the road. But to me, I think Landry is the best pass rusher in this draft, pure pass rusher, and I think he can step on a football field this September and help the Packers. I'm not entirely sold that Davenport can. What time is the draft starting, Matthew? That'll be 8 p.m. Eastern on Thursday night. When will Nagler's mock be out this week, Mike? It will be out on, I believe it'll be in the paper on Thursday. I think I submit it late Wednesday afternoon. So it'll be online, I think, Wednesday night. Thompson on Nagler's never right. Alex, I've asked. Always been turned down, though. We need more and more receiver. Devin, I talked about that a little earlier. I very much agree. Thoughts on Key? Chris, talking about Arden Key, the pass rusher. I mean, you do see flashes, and you do see things that you like as a pass rusher there. I don't think he's going to get taken in the first. I think he'll slip into the second round. Would the Packers, consider him there? It's a possibility. I do know there are lots of concerns scouts have with stuff off the field that we're not privy to, that no one's going to talk to me about. But so I would be surprised if he goes in the first. Might they select him later on in the draft? If the value's there and they think it's too good to pass up, then maybe. What's a paper? Nice. You have the hookup on tickets? No. Did Gutekunst tip his hand by saying bigger guys are harder to find? I wondered about that. I asked him right at the end of the press conference today, kind of jokingly saying, this isn't anything to do with the draft, but just football philosophy-wise, what's more important, pass rush or coverage in the back end? And he said, it all plays, a part. It all works together, but big guys are always harder to find than small guys. And he said that's always been the case in football from Pop Warner all the way up to the NFL. Now, what can you extrapolate from this draft? I don't think a whole heck of a lot, but I'm telling you, Vita Vea is there. I think he's taking him. I'm kidding. Or am I? Tom Brady's story on a possible retirement turned out to be a whole lot of nothing. Yeah, it's like the Rodgers frustration story. Things got to be written. Things got to be talked about on Twitter. What do you think about Gesicki? He runs like a deer. He can run and he can catch. There's no doubt about that. Can't block to save his life, but I think he'd be a weapon. Would the Packers use a pick on him after taking Jimmy Graham in free agency? It's possible. I think they need to get a tight end in this draft. But will Gesicki be the guy? I'm not sold on that. Let's see. What round do you think we go O-line? Scott, I would say, maybe the third round, but I would probably suspect fourth or fifth, as per their tradition. Who do you think the best wide receiver for the Packers to pick? Well, there are a lot of them out there. I like DJ Chark from LSU. I think he's got the speed that would just completely open up the Packers' offense. But, there's a lot of guys out there in this draft I think could help. Let's get Breland. He's out there, Steve. The Packers haven't shown a whole lot of interest, though. Let's see. Rodgers demand respect and looks Green Bay is playing with fire. I don't think Green Bay's playing with anything. They've got him under contract for 2 more years, and then franchise tag 2 more years after that. I mean, yeah, he could hold out, I guess, but what's that going to prove, and what's it going to do? Thoughts on Cobb's productivity? I understand when people look at the contract and think it's, his productivity doesn't live up to it. But I also know that the Packers signed him to that contract knowing that he plays in an offense with a quarterback who likes to spread the ball around. You know, he does everything. If you looked at his tape and saw a guy who was slowing down, who couldn't get open, who wasn't giving 110%, who maybe was sometimes open and the ball went other places, if you didn't see any of that, then I could see, okay, you need to adjust his salary, you need to approach him about a reduction and or a cut. But I don't think they see any of that on tape. I haven't seen it. And so I think they take it as, okay, you know, we signed him to this 4-year deal. He's in the end of the last year of his deal. We know he hasn't been as productive as he was when we signed him to it. But I suspect they expect his production will, you know, see an upswing this year because of the lack of Jordy Nelson. I think the best case scenario in the first round is Fitzpatrick or Ward fall to us at 14. I would be absolutely shocked if Ward fell to 14. Fitzpatrick, I think it's a possibility. I also think Derwin James is a possibility. I think any one of those guys would definitely help the secondary. To me, it's much more about finding someone who can either play outside and the slot or who is a slot specialist, someone like James. Because right now, you look at the makeup of their roster, I mean, maybe it's Lindsey Pipkins, but I don't really see a guy who's going to bounce inside on nickel and dime and be able to man stuff like Micah Hyde and Morgan Burnett and those guys did over the last few years. Or, you know, God forbid, Charles Woodson back in the day. You know, I don't see that guy on the roster at the moment. So, you know, they got a lot of perimeter guys, a lot of older perimeter guys. But not a lot to work with inside. So, you know, maybe Quentin Rollins makes a comeback. I don't know. But to me, that's why Ward and Fitzpatrick make the most sense. If you had a choice of Josh Jackson or Harold Landry at 14, who would you get? I would take Harold Landry. You know, I've always said it's much easier to play defense when you can get to the quarterback. And Landry can do so. What round the Pack take a quarterback? I think they would. I think they're going to look probably on. I doubt day 2, probably day 3 throughout. But you never know. If there's real value staring them in the face on day 2, I wouldn't rule it out. I'd be surprised, but I'm not going to rule it out. All right, everybody, I'm going to jump. We have a subscriber event this evening at the distillery here in Green Bay, so I'm going to be heading over to that. In the meantime, make sure you're checking PackersNews.com for all the latest. We got tons of great stuff up there. Michael Cohen takes a look at the secondary. Ryan Wood wrote off of Brian Gutekunst's press conference earlier this morning. We'll have more from that. Tons of stuff at PackersNews.com leading up to the draft Thursday night. Make sure you're checking early and often throughout the day. Until tomorrow, barring any breaking news tonight, thanks a lot, everyone. Have a good day.